Like many households, our family Pesach Seder is always somewhat predictable. We sing the same tunes, we hear the same corny jokes, and the same family members argue whether we should speed up or slow down. But there's also one challenge which we can always count on my grandfather to put forth. Whenever we begin praising God for taking us out of Egypt, my grandfather gets irritated. Why are we thanking him for bringing us out of Egypt, he asks, if he's the one who put us there in the first place? It's a good question, and if this Torah were given a month later, we might share some answers to that query. But a similar question can be asked about the Purim story, which is currently much more relevant. We surely appreciate God skyrocketing us from the depths of probable destruction to the top of the societal pedestal. But why did he subject us to that terrible anxiety in the first place? Why did we suffer months thinking that Haman was going to slaughter us? The Talmud actually deliberates this question, and the first response given is quite cryptic. Because the Jews took part in Achashverosh's feast, mentioned at the beginning of the Megillah, they were punished with the angst caused by Haman's plot. But what on earth does that mean? We can imagine that rejecting the king's invitation would have been quite a diplomatic blunder. What's so bad about joining a national party arranged by the king? The Pachad Yitzchak, written by Rav Yitzchak Hutner, sheds some light on this question by giving us some background. Why did Achashverosh throw a party in the first place? The Talmud explains that the Jews were guaranteed after the destruction of the first temple that their exile would conclude after 70 years, and Achashverosh had calculated, incorrectly, that this time was over. Since the Jews had not been redeemed, he threw a party to celebrate that God had seemingly abandoned the Jews. With that background, we can understand what was so problematic about sitting at the king's banquet. Joining the festivities was not simply a gesture of nationalism or political tact, but was really an expression of resignation. Taking part in the banquet meant we believed God had written us a national bill of divorce, and that he was no longer interested in us. It meant that we had given up hope in being God's people, and we had accepted defeat. On Purim, we try and remedy that lost hope. The Rambam advises, in his monumental work, the Mishnah Torah, that we should spend less of our money on the Purim feast and Mishloach Manot, and focus more on Matanot Yoni, since by uplifting the despondent, we imitate the ways of God who does the same. Now, with so much to hope for, and yet so many still feeling dejected and disheartened by the anniversary of a global pandemic, let's put some thought into how we can mimic the ways of God and raise each other's spirits. Shabbat Shalom.